We are back. My goodness, that break was short, but we're here. Donnell, first in the chat. All right. Hold on, look at this hair. Look at this. What is this guy doing? What in the world? All right, Donnell is first in the chat. We got to get Donnell a wrench since he's first in the chat today. Let's see. Donnell, got to go blue. Oh my gosh, dude. I didn't even come over here. All right, well, we got to do that. Yeah. Good. Okay. Good. Now I can go in here. Give Donnell a wrench. Maybe if I can click on it. Dude, these three dots are elusive, man. Boom! Alright, and then let's see if this dude is talking yet.
The rise in COVID cases in recent weeks, along with the emergence of the Omicron variant, pose risks to the outlook. Notwithstanding the effects of the virus and supply constraints, FOMC participants continue to foresee rapid growth. As shown in our summary of economic projections, the median projection for real GDP growth stands at 5.5% this year and 4% next year. Amid improving labor market conditions and very strong demand for workers, the economy has been making rapid progress toward maximum employment. Job gains have been solid in recent months, averaging 378,000 per month over the last 3 months. The unemployment rate has declined substantially, falling 0.6 of a percentage point since our last meeting and reaching 4.2% in November. The recent improvements in labor market conditions have narrowed the differences in employment across groups, especially for workers at the lower end of the wage distribution, as well as for African Americans and Hispanics. Labor force participation showed a welcome rise in November, but remains subdued, in part reflecting the aging of the population and retirements. In addition, some who otherwise would be seeking work report that they are out of the labor force because of factors related to the pandemic, including caregiving needs and ongoing concerns about the virus.
Free stimulus.
At the same time, employers are having difficulties filling job openings, and wages are rising at their fastest pace in many years. How long the labor shortages will persist is unclear, particularly if additional waves of the virus occur. Looking ahead, FOMC participants project the labor market to continue to improve, with the median projection for the unemployment rate declining to 3.5% by the end of the year.
I don't know about that.
Compared with the projections made in September, participants have revised their unemployment rate projections noticeably lower for this year and next. Supply and demand imbalances related to the pandemic and the reopening of the economy have continued to contribute to elevated levels of inflation. In particular, bottlenecks and supply constraints are limiting how quickly production can respond to higher demand in the near term. These problems have been larger and longer lasting than anticipated, exacerbated by waves of the virus. As a result, overall inflation is running well above our 2% longer run goal and will likely continue to do so well into next year. While the drivers of higher inflation have been predominantly connected to the dislocations caused by the pandemic, price increases have now spread to a broader range of goods and services. Wages have also risen briskly, but thus far, wage growth has not been a major contributor to the elevated levels of inflation.
Outdoor smile. Me too, man.
We are attentive to the risks that persistent real wage growth in excess of productivity could put to upward pressure on inflation. Like most forecasters, we continue to expect inflation to decline to levels closer to our 2% longer run goal by the end of next year. The median inflation projection of FOMC participants falls from 5.3% this year to 2.6% next year. This trajectory is notably higher than projected in September. We understand that high inflation imposes significant hardship, especially on those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials, like food, housing, and transportation. We are committed to our price stability goal. We will use our tools both to support the economy and a strong labor market, and to prevent higher inflation from becoming entrenched. We will be watching carefully to see whether the economy is evolving in line with expectations. The Fed's monetary policy actions have been guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. In support of these goals, the committee reaffirmed the 0 to 1.25% target range for the federal funds rate. We also updated our assessment of the progress the economy has made toward the criteria specified in our forward guidance for the federal funds rate. With inflation having exceeded 2% for some time, the committee expects it will be appropriate to maintain this target range until labor market conditions have reached levels consistent with the committee's assessments of maximum employment. All FOMC participants forecast that this remaining test will be met next year. The median projection for the appropriate level of the federal funds rate is 0.9% at the end of 2022, about a half percentage point higher than projected in September. Participants expect a gradual pace of policy firming, with the level of the federal funds rate generally near estimates of its longer-run level by the end of 2024. Of course, these projections do not represent a committee decision or plan, and no one knows with any certainty where the economy will be a year or more from now. At today's meeting, the committee also decided to double the pace of reductions in its asset purchases. Beginning in mid-January, we will reduce the monthly pace of our net asset purchases by $20 billion for Treasury securities and $10 billion for agency mortgage-backed securities. If the economy evolves broadly as expected, similar reductions in the pace of net asset purchases will likely be appropriate each month, implying that increases in our securities holdings would cease by mid-March, a few months sooner than we anticipated in early November. We are phasing out our purchases more rapidly because with elevated inflation pressures and a rapidly strengthening labor market, the economy no longer needs increasing amounts of policy support. In addition, a quicker conclusion of our asset purchases will better position policy to address the full range of plausible economic outcomes. We remain prepared to adjust the pace of purchases if warranted by changes in the economic outlook. And even after our balance sheet stops expanding, our holdings of securities will continue to foster accommodative financial conditions. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to complete the recovery in employment and achieve our price stability goal. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll go to Rachel from the Washington Post.
All right, Rachel.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and thank you, Chair Powell, for taking our questions.
Who's Rachel?
The latest FOMC materials say
Rachel.
that the FOMC thinks it will be appropriate to keep rates near zero until labor market conditions reach levels consistent with maximum employment, and there are also 3 rate hikes penciled in the projections for next year. In order to set up those hikes, what will maximum employment have to look like? When will you know that that threshold has been met? And how will that be communicated? Thank you.
So maximum employment, if you look at our statement of longer run goals and monetary policy strategy, maximum employment is something that we look at a broad range of indicators. And those would include, of course, things like the unemployment rate, the labor force participation rate, job openings, wages, flows in and out of the labor force and various parts of the labor force. We'd also tend to look broadly and inclusively at different demographic groups and not just at the headline and
That's ridiculous,
so
man.
that's a judgment for the committee to make. The committee will make a judgment that we've achieved labor market conditions consistent with maximum employment. When it makes that, it is admittedly a judgment call because it's a range of factors. Unlike inflation, where we have one number that sort of dominates, it's a broad range of things. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, in my view, we are making rapid progress toward maximum employment, and you see that in, of course, in some of the factors.
Dude, she just asked what the factors were, man. Don't tell her to read the factors. Just tell her what the factors are. You should know.
Great, thank you. Steve at CNBC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, if it's often said that monetary policy has long and variable lags, how does continuing to buy assets now, even though it's at a slower pace, address the current inflation problem, Won't
So,
the
Shuguru.
impact of today's changes not really have any impact for 6 months or a year down the road on the current inflation problem? And aren't you actually lengthening that time by continuing to buy assets such that it could be not until the long and variable lag after you end purchases sometime in March that you'll start to have any impact on the inflation problem?
So,
It's the devil's
on,
advocate. I know, man.
the first part of your question, which is why not stop purchasing now, I would just say this. We've learned that in dealing with balance sheet issues, we've learned that it's best to take a careful, sort of methodical approach to make adjustments. Markets can be sensitive to it, and we thought that this was
Elizabeth,
a
this is
doubling of the
really
speed.
boring.
We're basically 2 meetings away now from finishing the taper, and we thought that was the appropriate way to go. So we announced it, and that's what will happen. The question of long and variable lags is an interesting one. That's Milton Friedman's famous statement, and I do think that in this world where the global financial markets are connected together, financial conditions can change very quickly. And my own sense is that they get into financial conditions affect the economy fairly rapidly, longer than the traditional thought of a year or 18 months, shorter than that rather. But in addition, when we communicate about what we're going to do, the markets move immediately to that. So financial conditions are changing to reflect, the forecast that we made, and basically, which was I think fairly in line with what markets were expecting. But financial conditions don't wait to change until things actually happen. They change on the expectation of things happening. So I don't think it's a question of having to wait.
Can I just follow up?
Steve.
Is it still the
Talking on a
policy
turn,
and
dog.
position of the committee that you will not raise rates until the taper is complete? Thank you.
Yes, the sense of that, of course, being that buying assets is adding accommodation and raising rates is removing accommodation. Since we're 2 meetings away from completing the taper, assuming things go as expected, I think if we wanted to lift off before then you would stop the taper potentially sooner. But that's not something I expect to happen. But I do not think it would be appropriate, and we don't find ourselves in a situation where we might have to raise rates while we're still purchasing assets.
Okay, let's go to Colby at the FT.
Colby, dude.
Thank you, Michelle. Chair Powell,
Okay,
I'm curious
cool.
exactly how much distance you think there should be between the end of the taper and the first interest rate increase. Back in 2014, the guidance that was given was for the Fed funds rate to remain at the target level for a considerable time after the end of the asset purchase program. Is that an approach you support now, or does the current economic situation warrant something a bit different? Thank you.
So we haven't made any decision of that nature, and so no, I wouldn't say that's our position at all. We really haven't taken a position on that. I will say that we did talk today. We had our first discussion about the balance sheet, for example, and we went through the sequence of events
Powell got a Shiba tattoo.
regarding the runoff and that sort of thing with the balance sheet last time. And I think people thought that was an interesting discussion. They thought that it was informative, but people pointed out that this is a significantly different economic situation that we have at the current time, and that the differences that we see now would tend to influence how we think about the balance sheet. And the same thing would be true about raising rates. I don't foresee that there would be that kind of very extended wait at this time. The economy is so much stronger. I was here at the Fed when we lifted off the last time, and the economy is so much stronger now. It's so much closer to full employment. Inflation is running well above target, and growth is well above potential. There wouldn't be the need for that kind of long delay. Having said that, we'll make this decision in coming meetings, and it's not a decision that the committee has really focused on yet.
Let's go to Nick at the Wall Street Journal.
Hey, Nicholas. Is this Nick F?
Thank you. Nick Tamaros at the Wall Street Journal.
Nick T.
Chair Powell, in March, you answered a question about maximum employment like this. You said 4% would be a nice unemployment rate to get to, but it'll take more than that to get to maximum employment. More recently, you have hinted at a possible distinction between the level of maximum employment that's achievable in the short run versus in the long run. Has your
Shuguru.
view of
Got
the
you.
level of maximum employment changed this year, and if so, how? And how close is the economy right now to your judgment of the short run level of maximum employment? Thank you.
Right. So the thing is, we're not going back to the same economy we had in February of 2020. And I think early on, the sense was that's where we were headed. The post-pandemic labor market and the economy in general will be different. And the maximum level of employment that's consistent with price stability evolves over time within a business cycle and over a longer period, in part reflecting evolution of the factors that affect labor supply, including those related to the pandemic. So I would say, look, we're at 4.2% now, and the unemployment rate has been dropping very quickly. So we're already in the vicinity of 4%. The way in which the important metric that has been disappointing really has been labor force participation, of course, where we had widely thought, I had certainly thought that last fall, as unemployment insurance ran off, as vaccinations increased, as schools reopened, that we would see a significant surge, if you will, or at least a surge in labor force participation. So we've begun to see some improvement. We were
People
certainly
going back to
welcome the
work.
2/10
Come on,
improvement
man.
that we got in the November report. But I do think that it feels likely now that the return to higher participation is going to take longer. And in fact, that's been the pattern in past cycles, that labor force participation has tended to recover in the wake of a strong recovery in unemployment.
You guys want to keep listening to Jimmy there, or what do you want to do? Because I'm not gonna lie, he's probably gonna be answering the same questions over and over and just dodging them like he is right now. I'm not talking to Carol and Carol Baskin and whoever else was there, but I mean, basically, in a nutshell, what they've done here, they kept the inflation rate the same, or the interest rates the same. So we don't have to worry about interest rates rising, and he just said that we do not have to worry about interest rates rising until at least 2 meetings have gone by. So 2 meetings typically are 5 to 8 weeks apart. I don't exactly know when those 2 meetings are going to be done. Maybe March, he said. They're going to start discussing whether or not to raise the interest rate. Right now, they did taper the bond buying program a little bit, but it was tapered as expected. They did not taper it any quicker or any heavier than what the market expected. So that is technically good news for us. They're not doing anything more than we expected. So it's not like the investors are going to be out there concerned right now, because there's always that, like, the uncertainty. We talk about it so much in here. Fear, uncertainty, doubt, all that good stuff. But yeah, we could go back to it in a second. But with all of that stuff going on, if the market doesn't know what's going to happen, and they expect Powell could possibly have come out here today and said they're going to reduce the bond buying program by $60 billion a month instead of $30 billion a month. That could have been bad for us. But what we have so far is good news in the fact that they are tapering the bond buying program as expected, and they did not raise interest rates as expected. And we can talk about aliens. Yeah, dude, I don't even know if you're in 6th grade, if you know about inflation and aliens. Maybe aliens, yeah, but inflation, I don't know about that. Did they teach 6th graders about inflation?
Thanks. We'll go to Howard at Reuters.
Let's go, Howie.
Thanks, as usual. So I guess I got to ask about the elephant in the room, which is the Omicron variant.
Yes.
This seems to already be pushing one of your colleagues, the Bank of England, off its course. Things have evolved very fast there. Hasn't quite hit the shores of the U.S. in full force yet that people seem to expect it to. So I'm wondering, in your feelings about this, are you convinced that this is going to be perhaps a more infectious but less serious
Interest rates, Frank.
Or are you simply confident that the U.S. economy can continue its divorce from the pandemic?
Yeah, Frank, overall, we've got good news so far. Well,
I think there's a lot of uncertainty, which is why we called it out in our statement, our post-meeting statement, as a risk. We follow the same experts, and we talk privately to the same experts that everyone else does, and read the same articles in the paper and the same research. And so you mentioned the early assessment is highly transmissible, perhaps not as severe.
Christy.
Some continuing protection from existing vaccines and also existing immunity from having had the disease. That's a first draft. We're a long way from knowing what it will turn out to be. It may well come to the United States and replace Delta as the dominant variant fairly quickly. That could easily happen. I think there's another step there, though, which is what's going to be the effect on the economy, and that will depend, on how much it suppresses demand as opposed to suppressing supply. It is not clear how big the effects would be on either inflation or growth or hiring. On top of what's already going on, which is quite a strong,
uncertainty is a very bad word,
Sergio. In large parts of the country, across the northern United States and all the way to the eastern seaboard, and now coming down.
Dude's got to have a crystal ball, man.
Of Delta. So coming in on top of that, again, it's very difficult to say what the economic effects would be. I do think wave upon wave, people are learning to live with this. More and more people are getting vaccinated. So people who get the new variant, it affects them much less than it tends to affect in the aggregate people who are not vaccinated. So the more people get vaccinated, the less the economic effect. It doesn't mean it won't have an economic effect. Delta had an effect of slowing down hiring, and it actually it had an effect on global supply chains, and that sort of that hurt the process of the global supply chains getting worked out. So it can have an economic effect. I just think at this point we don't know much. We'll know a whole lot more in 3 weeks, and we'll know more than that in 6 weeks.
But if I could follow up, you're clearly from a risk standpoint comfortable putting away one of your tools pretty soon, which sort of implies that whatever Omicron brings, you're comfortable the economy can handle it without quantitative easing.
Yes. I think if you look at the state of the economy,
confidence. I love it, pal.
The strength of
Sardinia.
Demand, the strength of just overall demand, the strength of demand for labor. Look at inflation. Look at
Thank you very
wages.
much, Sardinia.
I think
really appreciate you, man.
Moving forward, the end of our taper by a few months is really an appropriate thing to do, and I think really Omicron doesn't really have much to do with that.
Nah, it's my boy, pal.
Let's go to Gina at the New York Times.
All right, where's Gina? Bottom left.
Hey, Pal. Thanks for taking our questions. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what prompted your recent pivot toward greater wariness around inflation.
Sure. So I guess I would go back and, it's been a continual process, really.
Excuse me, Gina? What?
Inflation really popped up right in the late spring last year. And
Sardinia,
it was very widely held in the forecasting community that this would be temporary. It was quite narrow. A limited number of factors were causing it. And there was a decent amount of evidence to support that view that it would be temporary or transitory, as we said. Certainly, we had 5 months of declining month-on-month, monthly readings of inflation, but we didn't see much in the way of progress on labor supply or on other supply side issues. Then in September, I'd say after Labor Day, we started to see it started to become clear that this was both larger in its effect on inflation and more persistent. And of course, I said so on many occasions. And one of the consequences of that is that we moved the taper forward. We moved the taper forward, and it's a much faster taper than had been planned. So we've been adapting. I've been saying we're adapting our policy. So come to your real question. We got the ECI reading on the eve of the November meeting. It was the Friday before the November meeting, and it was very high, 5.7% reading for the Employment Compensation Index for the third quarter, not annualized, for the third quarter, just before the meeting. And I thought for a second there whether we should increase our taper. Decided to go ahead with what we had socialized. Then right after that, we got the next Friday after the meeting, 2 days after the meeting, we got a very strong employment report and revisions to prior readings and no increase in labor supply. And the Friday after that, we got the CPI, which was a very high reading. And I honestly, at that point, really decided that I thought we needed to look at speeding up the taper. And we went to work on that. So that's really what happened. It was essentially higher
Nice,
inflation
Frank.
and faster, turns out much faster progress in the labor market. Really what's happening is the unemployment rate is catching up, seems to be catching up with a lot of the other readings of a tight labor market. 0.6 over one cycle.
Louis, no, man, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if what he's saying right now is going to lead to a run. I don't think this is going to be a catalyst in my honest opinion. I do, however, think it's what the market expected. So, hold on. This could be good.
Are actually factoring into inflation yet? And I guess I wonder how you think about sort of the wage picture as you're making these assessments.
No idea what she's asking. But I don't know if it's going to necessarily turn into a catalyst to make the market run. It is what the market was expecting. So as far as like the uncertainty driving stock prices lower, I think we can kind of breathe easy a little bit, knowing that the Fed isn't going to hit us or blindside us with something that we weren't expecting, or the market, I should say the market, right? The market wasn't expecting overall, so this could be something that we, kind of calm down a little bit with the decline we've been seeing.
Wages were persistently above productivity growth. That puts upward pressure on
devil's advocate,
firms, and they raise prices. It would take something that was persistent and material.
I would agree
for
with that
to happen, and we don't see that yet. But with the kind of hot labor market readings, wages we're seeing, it's something that we're watching. And the other thing, of course, is rents, which are very important. Owners equivalent rent and rent. That's another thing which is very economically sensitive. Unlike the things that are causing the inflation now, this is economically sensitive, and so would be expected to move up. And so as some things go down, the question is, where will we be when we come out the other side of this? And we need to keep our eyes on those things.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll go to Chris at the AP.
Thank you. Well, next year you could see growth slowing, and you could see some disinflation.
Oh, this dude's on an old laptop like me.
The Omicron variant does spread more widely. Would you delay rate hikes in that situation, and how would you think about that? And also, how would you explain rate hikes if you do follow through in that kind of situation with inflation fading and growth slowing? How would you explain rate hikes to the public, particularly those who may still be looking for work?
Well, as you know, the SEP is not a plan. It's not something we debate, negotiate over, or really discuss in terms of what the right answer should be. People write down
Might be our Chris, dude.
Their assumption, their assessment of appropriate policy based on their economic forecast. And so the median, what you're talking about, the 3 rate increases, that's the median of the committee. The median of the committee is also that growth will be 4%, and that unemployment will be 3.5% by the end of the year. So that's a really strong economy. And of course, if the economy turns out to be quite different from that, then so will the rate. No one will say, "Oh, we can't change our policy because we wrote something down in December." That no one's ever said that or will. It will. The actual rate
people have been doing a lot of stuff they said they'd never do, though. Come on now,
assessment
pal.
of the forecast. So, for example, if the economy were to slow down significantly, then you would expect that would have an effect of slowing down rate increases. But we have to, we look at our 2 goals, maximum employment and price stability, and we make policy based on them, and not with respect to what we wrote down in a prior SEP.
Thank you. Let's go to Victoria Guida at Politico.
All right, where you at, Victoria?
Hi, Chair Powell. I wanted to follow up on maximum employment. So, the new framework was basically designed, as I understand it, so that there was a de-emphasis on guessing where inflation would pick up because of employment, and basically you were going to wait until you saw the white
I'd say the
CPI
same
inflation,
thing,
and that's how you would kind of know that you reached maximum employment. So I'm wondering, you've talked a lot about the different ways that you might measure maximum employment, but from what I understand, that's still basically the way that you know that you're there is inflation. So is that understanding correct? And how are those signals likely to be clear right now, given that you have inflation that's caused by these supply chain disruptions that might also lead to inflation in wages and those sorts of things. So how do you sort of like tease out the signal of maximum employment?
Okay, so let me start by saying that the inflation that we got was not at all the inflation we were looking for or talking about in the framework. It really was a completely different thing. It was to do with, strong monetary policy and fiscal stimulus into an economy that was recovering rapidly and in which there were these supply side barriers, which effectively led to, in certain parts of the economy, what you might call a vertical supply curve. So, automobile purchases are very interest rate sensitive, and you would think demand would drive up the quantity of cars, but it can't because they don't have semiconductors. So that was a very different kind of inflation. This is not the inflation we were looking for under our framework at all. It's nothing to do with our framework, and the way we've approached it is really nothing to do with our framework. But come to maximum employment, which is really your question. How do you know? So I think you look at it at prices and quantities. If you want to look at maximum employment, you look at prices and quantities, and the main price you look at is wages. It's one of the things you look at, and it's so I mentioned a number of the things. You could get to 20 if you wanted to easily, but labor force participation, the unemployment rate, different age groups of prime age labor force participation in particular gets a lot of focus. The JOLTS data get a lot of focus, and wages. That's really one of the great signals. The quits rate is another one. The quits rate is really one of the very best indicators, according to a lot of labor economists, because people quit because they feel like they can get a better job, and there's record amounts, historically high levels of that going on, suggesting again that you've got a very tight labor market. So on wages, that's the price indicator we look at to tell us, along with all the other data, whether we have labor market conditions that are consistent with maximum employment. And so that's how we think about it. But one of the complications is that, again, we've got to make policy in real time. So how do we think about that? If we think we can make labor, participation might move up. Let's say we knew that it would start to move up in 2 years, would we wait 2 years or when inflation is running way above target? Probably not. So you have to make an assessment that what is the level of maximum employment that is consistent with price stability in real time is one way to think about it.
Just to kind of follow up on that for a second, if you do raise interest rates next year and you're not certain whether you're at maximum employment, I mean, are you all going to point, when you raise interest rates, are you going to point to ways in which the labor market could still improve?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I think whether or not we say we're at conditions, labor market conditions consistent with maximum employment next year, we would all be open and I think expect over time that the level of maximum employment that's consistent with price stability would increase further over time. For example, through increasing participation. So we would certainly, we would not in any way want to foreclose the idea that the labor market can get even better. Green. But again, with inflation as high as it is, we have to make policy in real time. We've got to make that assessment in real time.
Thank you. We'll go to Olivia from Bloomberg.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Powell, and thank you for taking our questions. I wanted to follow up on some of your earlier comments about labor force participation. And I wondered, what do you think needs to change in the economy to kind of get a meaningful recovery in labor force participation? And also whether running the economy hot, like in the last expansion, is one way of doing that.
Well, the labor market is, by so many measures, hotter than it ever ran in the last expansion. If you think about it, the ratio of job openings, for example, to vacancies is at all-time highs. Quits, the wages, all those things are even hotter. But what would it take for labor force participation to move up more? That really, why is it low is the question. So there are a bunch of answers, and all of them probably have some validity. Part of it will be that people, for certain people, they don't want to go back in the labor force because either they're medically vulnerable or they're not comfortable going back while COVID is still everywhere. That's one thing. The lack of availability of childcare made for caretakers is certainly part of it, not just for children, but for older people. It has been pointed out by many that the stock market is high, people's portfolios are stronger. They may go back to being a one income rather than a two income family. The same thing with people's houses. People they have a mortgage, and with leverage and the house price increases, the equity they have in their home might have doubled, and they might reach the same conclusion. So and people have savings on their balance sheet because of forced savings, because they couldn't spend on travel and things like that, and also because of government transfers.
I agree with some.
So for all of those reasons, and it's hard to know exactly the part each of them plays, we have a situation where we've had a shock to labor force participation that is not unwinding as quickly as many has expected, and people, in effect, a good part of it is voluntary. People, and this is how they want to maximize their welfare, and that's certainly their choice. In other cases, it's something that will abate very quickly if and when the pandemic gets under control. And the longer the pandemic goes on, maybe the less likely that people will come back, because they get used to their new life and they lose contact with their old jobs. That's what the evidence would say. So it's a range of things. It isn't that the economy lacks stimulus. Usually in every other expansion, it's that there aren't enough jobs and people can't find jobs, and we're stimulating demand and trying to get demand to come up. That's not the problem here. The problem is a supply side problem, which what it would take to work it out, I think it's going to be time. And number one thing it would really be to have the pandemic get under control. That's what everyone would really like to see. What does the labor force, what does the labor market look like in a world without COVID? That would be the thing that we'd really like to see. But it doesn't look like that's coming anytime soon.
And just to quickly follow up on that, if some of the reason that labor force participation isn't back to, February 2020 levels because people are voluntarily making life decisions that are different, does that make you think we're going to end up at a lower rate overall? Well,
there's a demographic trend underlying all of this, and we actually got above the demographic trend at the end of the last expansion. So one would expect over time that labor force participation would move down, because an aging population, the older people are, the lower their participation rate is. So you would expect that the trend would be lower, and that over time participation would move down.
This is poker teller.
How much we can get back up closer to where we were in February of 2020, and indeed for the year or so before that, is a good one. And I mean, but what we can do is try to create the conditions. There's a lot of good for society when you have a tight but stable labor market where people are coming in, they're getting into the labor force, they're getting paid well. In the labor market we had before, we had the biggest wage increases were going to people at the bottom end of the wage spectrum for the last couple of years. There were just a lot of really desirable aspects of a labor market like that. Higher participation is one of them, and we'd love to get back there. But again, ultimately, we have the tools that we have, which are essentially to stimulate demand and also to control inflation. I mean, really, it might be one of the two big threats to getting back to maximum employment is actually high inflation, because to get back to where we were, the evidence grows that it's going to take some time. And what we need is another long expansion like the ones we've been having over the last 40 years. We've had, I think, 3 of the 4 longest in our recorded history, including the last one, which was the longest in our recorded history. That's what it would really take to get back to the kind of labor market we'd like to see. And to have that happen, we need to make sure that we maintain price stability.
Okay, let's go to Edward Lawrence at Fox.
How do I get to ask questions?
Thanks, Michelle, and thanks for taking the question, Chair Powell. So I was looking at the census data there for estimated monthly changes on sales, and what you're seeing is fewer people spending at restaurants and drinking places, more people spending at grocery stores. You see electronic sales down 4.6% month over month. Also, department store sales down 5.4% month over month. How concerned, or what is your level of concern the consumer may be turning away from this economy or pulling back because of inflation, the virus, or something else? Thank you.
We see consumer expenses very strong in this quarter. I don't know, Edward, whether you're talking about more shopping online versus shopping in the store, but consumer demand is very strong. Incomes are very strong. Because people are going back to work and they're getting wage increases. Admittedly, some of the wage increases are being eaten away by inflation, but nonetheless, incomes overall are going up.
Anybody get a 2% raise this year, but inflation 6.8%?
Has been strong. There may be something in the seasonality that this year's holiday spending may have been pulled forward, and of course there may be effects from Delta, and there might be going forward from Omicron. But fundamentally, though, the consumer is really healthy. And we expect personal consumption expenditures to be pretty strong.
You guys feel healthy out there?
Okay, let's go to Mike at Bloomberg.
Mr. Chairman,
Dude, look at this guy.
The forecast for inflation in this month's or this meeting's economic projections has been revised up significantly for 2021, but barely moved for 2022 and 2023. You've said you expect inflation to fall significantly. Is that because you're going to raise interest rates, or because the virus is going to fade and the effects are going to fade? In other words, is it a question of when, not if, you raise interest rates? And does it suggest that maybe your critics are correct and you might be afraid you're behind the curve?
So actually, I'm looking at the SEP here, and the median forecasts for core and headline inflation did move up by 0.4 each. So that's a significant, in an SEP, that's a pretty significant move up. It's based on both of those things, I suppose. I do think there's a broad expectation among forecasters, including our own, that the bottlenecks will alleviate sometime over the course of this year. If you look at where blue chip forecasts are, which is the group of well-resourced large forecasting operations with a long track record, they'll show inflation coming back down significantly toward the back end of next year. I would say, though, as well, that our policy should begin to have an effect. There will be a lag, but it should begin to have an effect on that as well. That's the most likely case. I guess what the thing I would want to say, though, is we can't act as though that's a certainty, and we're not going to act as though that's a certainty. There's a real risk now, I believe, that inflation may be more persistent, and that may be putting inflation expectations under pressure, and that the risk of higher inflation becoming entrenched has increased. It's certainly increased. I don't think it's high at this moment, but I think it's increased, and I think that's part of the reason behind our move today, is to put ourselves in a position to be able to deal with that risk, and I think we are in a position to deal with that risk. We need to see more data. We need to see how the inflation data and all the data evolve in coming months, but we are prepared to use our tools to make sure that higher inflation doesn't get entrenched. For one reason, as I just mentioned, it's one of the two big threats, the other being the pandemic itself, to getting back to maximum employment.
I want to
Let's go
see.
to Michael Derby,
I
Wall
want to
Street
make sure this
Journal.
guy's still alive here.
Thank you for taking my question. So as the Fed
Not this
shifts
guy.
towards an accelerated taper, I wonder what your read is on financial stability risks right now. I mean, these periods can be, it seems like the taper process has gone fairly smooth so far.
Let's do a
But
giveaway. We will do a giveaway.
what do you see in terms of stability risks? Are there any parts of the financial sector that concern you right now? And are there any significant systemic issues that are on your radar, maybe from the cryptocurrency sector or something like that?
We have had now for a decade and more a four-part financial stability framework that we use, so we can hold ourselves to the same kind of framework and not just treat each event individually. And there are four key areas: asset valuations, debt owed by households and businesses, funding risk, and leverage among financial institutions. So I would say asset valuations, I'm going to go really superficially here, but asset valuations are somewhat elevated, I would say. Debt owed by businesses,
Don't say that.
and households. Households are in very strong financial shape. Businesses actually have a lot of debt, but their default rates are very, very low. But nonetheless, it's something we're watching. Funding risk is, by and large, low among financial institutions, but we do see money market funds as a vulnerability, and would applaud the SEC's action this week. Leverage among financial institutions is low in the sense that capital is high. So overall, financial stability. That's how I would make an overall characteristic, but we break it down into those pieces. In terms of the things that we're looking at, it's the things we've already talked about to some extent. It's the emergence of a new variant that could lead to significant economic. If there were to be a variant, for example, that were quite resistant to vaccines, it could have another significant effect on the economy. We don't see that. We don't have any basis for thinking that the new variant that we have is that one, but it's certainly one we're looking at. I would say, cyber risk, the risk of a successful cyber attack is, for me, always the most, one that we would be very difficult to deal with. I think we know how to deal with bad loans and things like that. I think more a cyber attack that were to take down a major financial institution or financial market utility would be a really significant financial stability risk that we haven't actually faced yet. So I could go on with a list of horribles, but
don't do it.
I think that's a decent picture of where I would start.
How about the cryptocurrency issues? Anything that worries you there that's going on in there in terms of, it's obviously a lot's happening in that sector. Is that concern you at all?
I think the concerns there are not so much current financial stability concerns. I, of course, would support the views expressed in the President's Working Group report on stablecoins. Stablecoins can certainly be a useful, efficient, consumer-serving part of the financial system if they're properly regulated, and right now they aren't, and they have the potential to scale, particularly if they were to be associated with one of the very large tech networks that exist, and you could have a payment network that was immediately systemically important, close to immediately systemically important, that didn't have appropriate regulation and protections. The public relies on the government and the Fed in particular.
Yep, we do.
To make sure that the payment system is safe and reliable, as well as the dollar, and to provide a safe and reliable, trusted currency.
Boo!
So, but I do think those are longer term. In terms of the more the cryptocurrencies, that are really speculative assets, I don't see them as a financial stability concern at the moment.
At the moment,
I do think they are risky. They're not backed by anything.
Nothing is. The dollar isn't either, man.
I think there's big consumer issues for consumers who may or may not understand what they're getting, and there's certainly developments in the markets that are worth following, which are really not in our jurisdiction, but things like the kind of leverage that's built into them and those sorts of things is certainly worth watching.
I can say words too when I don't want to bother somebody with my answer. I can say words too that just don't make sense when you put them together.
Going back to inflation.
Come on, pal. What are you doing, man?
On getting inflation under control.
So, I would say this. I actually think we are well positioned to
Powell
deal
does not like
with,
Shiba. Put
with
it that
what's
way.
Coming, with a range of plausible outcomes that can come. I do, and I think.
Buy Hero Fans Live right now.
I do think we've been adapting to the incoming data really all the way along, and noticing and calling out that both the effects and the persistence of inflation, of bottlenecks, and labor shortages and things like that. So we've been calling out the fact that were becoming longer and more persistent and larger. And now we're in a position where we're ending our taper within the next, by March, in 2 meetings, and we'll be in a position to raise interest rates as and when we think it's appropriate, and we will, to the extent that's appropriate. At the same time, we're going to be seeing a few more months of data. I don't actually think we're out of position now. I think this was an important move for us to make. I think that the data that we got toward the end of the fall was a really strong signal that inflation is is more persistent and higher, and that the risk of it remaining higher for longer has grown. And I think we're reacting to that now, and we'll continue to adapt our policy. So I wouldn't look at it that we're behind the curve. I would look at it that we're actually in position now to take the steps that we'll need to take, in a thoughtful manner to address all of the issues, including that of too high inflation.
Let's go to Evan at Market News.
I like the dude from Bloomberg. Come on now. Ask another good question.
Thank you. I was wondering if we should still be seeing the taper and interest rate hikes as separate. And secondly, in the last cycle, the Fed started shrinking the balance sheet when short-term interest rates were about 1 to 1.25% range. Do you think the FOMC might be able to potentially start running off assets before that this time?
Are they separate? So our interest rate, they are separate tools. So the asset purchases are a separate tool from interest rates. Stopping asset purchases does not remove accommodation. It just stops adding further accommodation, whereas raising interest rates starts to remove accommodation from what is a highly accommodative stance. The extent to which they'll be separated in time is something we haven't really discussed at the committee yet. We will be discussing that obviously in coming meetings. I don't think that the last cycle there was quite a long separation before interest rates. I don't think that's at all likely in this cycle. We're in a very, very different place with high inflation, strong growth, a really strong economy. That as I mentioned, the SEP medians are for 4% growth next year, 3.5% unemployment at the end of the year, and the headline inflation of 2.6% next year, core at 2.7. So this is a strong economy, one in which it's appropriate for interest rate hikes. So they're separate, I would say. Your second question was?
My second question was about runoff.
Runoff.
Yes, in the last cycle.
So with the balance sheet, we did have a balance sheet discussion. It's our sort of first discussion of balance sheet issues at our meeting this week. We'll have another at the next meeting and another at the meeting after that. I suspect these are interesting issues to discuss. Didn't make any decisions today. We looked back at what happened in the last cycle, and people thought that was interesting and informative. But to one degree or another, people noted that this is just a different situation, and those differences should inform the decisions we make about the balance sheet this time. So I haven't made any decisions at all about when runoff would start, but we'll be continuing to, in relation to when either liftoff happens or the end of the taper. But those are exactly the decisions we'll be turning to in coming meetings.
Yeah, by hero, yes.
Thank you. We'll go to Scott Horsley at NPR.
This guy. I worry about this guy.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think you said a few minutes ago that the inflation that we got during the pandemic was not the inflation that you anticipated when you crafted the framework, and you described it as a collision of a lot of monetary and fiscal stimulus with these supply side
click that like button. Thank you very much,
Shugi. Stimulus was mistaken, or is the inflation just a consequence that we have to put up with because of that?
No, I'm not expressing any judgment about the stimulus in that comment. What I'm saying is there's a sense among some that you wanted inflation. This is what you wanted. How do you like it? And the truth is, this is not the inflation what we were talking about in the framework was inflation that comes from a tight labor market, right? So we had 3.5% unemployment for a period, and we had inflation that was just barely getting to 2%. And I think in that setting,
I don't know about that.
Our thinking was we can afford to wait to raise rates until we see actual inflation rather than preemptive, because no one had seen what 3.5% unemployment would look like with high labor force participation. By the way, no one had seen what it would really look like for an extended period for decades, and we didn't know what the inflationary implications were. It turned out there was barely 2% inflation and no sense that it was gaining momentum and that kind of thing. So we incorporated that into our framework. This is something completely different. That's a situation where you had a very, very high level of employment and low inflation. This is literally the opposite, or it has been the opposite, where we have very high inflation, and we've had it since the labor market was in terrible shape. It had nothing. So far, this inflation has really nothing to do with tightness in the labor market. It does have to do with strong demand, and strong demand was supported by the Fed. It was supported by Congress. I'm not making any judgments on Congress. It's not my job, but I will just say we're coming out of what we certainly hope will be a once in a lifetime, certainly historic, the first really global modern pandemic, which looked at the beginning like it might cause a global depression. And, so we threw a lot of support at it. And what's coming out now is really strong growth, really strong demand, high incomes, and all that kind of thing. People will judge in 25 years whether we overdid it or not. But, the reality is we are where we are. And, we think our policy is the right one for the situation that we're in.
Interesting.
Thank you. Let's go to Brian Chung.
Hi, Chairman Powell. Wanted to ask about
the bond
markets. When you see the 10-year at 146 basis points, do you have any sort of concerns about an environment by which you might be hiking interest rates into? Would you prefer the curve be a little bit steeper? What are you gleaning from the bond market actions over the last 6 weeks?
So I think the short end actions are easy to understand, which is, they're basically very policy sensitive rates at the short end, and it makes sense that it's reacting to changes in expectations for policy. I think a lot of things go into the long rates, and the place I would start is just look at global sovereign yields around the world. Look at JGBs, look at bunds, and they're so much lower. You can get a much higher yield on U.S. Treasuries by buying USTs rather than bunds, and you can hedge the currency risk back into yen, back into euros, and still be way ahead. So in a way,
you're making
it's not surprising that there's a lot of
0.8%,
demand for U.S. sovereigns in a world, in a risk-free world where they're yielding so much more than bunds or than JGBs. So that's a big part of it. I also think, there may be some assessment in there of what the neutral rate is or what the terminal rate is. I don't know about that, but I would just say that we write down our own estimates of the terminal rate or the neutral rate of interest. Those are highly uncertain, and we'll make policy based on what we're seeing in the economy, rather than based on what a model might say the neutral rate is. We all had the experience of the last cycle, where we all through that cycle were trying to estimate what the neutral rate was, and it turned out, I think we learned a lot from seeing what happens. We ended up cutting rates 3 times after raising them to 2.25% to 2.5%. So I'm not troubled by where the long bond is. I see that it's low. We're really focused on broader financial conditions. We're focused on maximum employment and price stability.
Thank you. For the last question, we'll go to Greg Robb.
This dude, hopefully, where'd he go?
Thank you very much. Chair Powell, I was wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about something I've heard that's been discussed, that, your pivot towards a tighter policy, hawkish policy stance had something to do with the timing of your re-nomination by the president. Thank you.
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about that. So as I mentioned, we got the ECI reading just before the November meeting. We got the labor market report 2 days after the meeting, and then 1 week after that, I think on the 12th of November, we got the CPI reading. It was really the CPI reading in concert with those two, and I just came to the view over that weekend that we needed to speed up the taper, and we started working on that. That's a full 10 days or so before the president made a decision on renominating me. So honestly, it had nothing to do with that at all, and I just thought this is what we got to do. My colleagues were out talking about a faster taper, and that doesn't happen by accident. They were out talking about a faster taper before the president made his decision. So it's a decision that effectively was in more than in train, and to the point where people were talking about it publicly. So that's what happened, and it had absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. We're always going to just do what we think is the right thing, and I certainly will always just do what I think the right thing is for the economy and for the people that we serve.
Just a quick follow-up. I guess that some people are saying that it was the stimulus in March, that was sort of over. We didn't really need all that stimulus, and that there was talk even then that would be a mistake and it would lead to higher inflation, and perhaps that you didn't push back as much as you might have otherwise.
I didn't push back at all, and the reason I didn't, and there was lots of talk about that, but not from the Fed, because that is not our job. We are not the CBO, and we're not elected by anybody. So we take fiscal policy as it arrives at our front door, and we don't comment. We make our own assessments inside the Fed, but it's really not our role.
And when Congress tells you to print, you print, boy. You print.
Who's in the White House, who's in Congress? It's just not our job, and it's something we avoid pretty.
Yeah, if we tell you to print, you print. Easy as that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone.
How come this guy didn't get to answer a question, man? This dude looks like he's 95 years old. He looks like Jay Ingram, the guy that talks about AMC stock and GameStop. My goodness. No, hey, whoa. No, don't play any music. Oh my gosh. Why do they have to play that dumb elevator music, man? Okay, we're good with that. Yeah. Moral of the story, guys. I know that's like way too much to summarize there, but Devil's Advocate put it a very good way. I don't think that this is necessarily a catalyst that shifts investors' opinions on something and really drives stock prices higher. Clearly, you can see by the left side of the screen here that the market is reacting very positively to the news. When the market is uncertain about something, people tend to pull out. Now, we aren't certain that they're going to do anything in the next meeting. We're not certain that they're going to do anything with inflation at the next meeting or interest rates at the next meeting, although they did say they will try their best to wait until at least March to do anything with interest rates. But they did exactly what the market expected them to do. So that's why we're seeing a turnaround here in the fact that, we don't have to worry about what they're doing anymore. They did what they said, and we're more comfortable with that now. So that's why we got a lot of green. It was good news for us. I like it. We've got AMC sitting at $24.79, almost $25 per share right now after being down 6-7% on the day. Shiba sitting at $34.05. Prague green on the day, sitting at $258. GameStop $150 right now. All green across the board except for Dogecoin. Dogecoin's still down a little bit because it ran up so high yesterday. But all green across the board, looking very good. I don't know, a lot of good questions, man. And whether you guys think one way or another, like Powell said, man, they did what they did, and some people agree with what they did, some people disagree with what they did, and in 25 years, I can guarantee you they will be letting us know whether or not the Fed made the right decision, and talking about it, and criticizing it, even if it was a good decision. People are still going to be criticizing it, so good on that one. Snow cone. So if I got 1 million Shiba, and it goes to 2 cents, how much would I make? You would make $20,000 if you get 1 million Shiba and it goes to 2 cents, because $1 would be 2 million, 10 cents would be 200,000, 2 cents would be $20,000. I'm only investing for the long term, so I'm not in a rush. Very good, Snow Cone. You get $20,000 if it goes to 2 cents and you're sitting on 1 million. Yes, say Devil's Advocates. Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. Well, I have good news and bad news in both markets. I passed my drug test, and I will start my new job soon. Very nice, Mike. Very nice. Passing drug test is the way to go. And he did mention crypto, so clearly I disagree wholeheartedly with Jerome Powell saying that stable coins are the only coins that have any use. And they don't even have use unless they are regulated by the government. So it's very, that's just dumb. That's not a cryptocurrency. That's not a cryptocurrency at all. It's something that's going to be a stable coin regulated by the government is not a cryptocurrency. I don't understand what these people's hang up is with crypto, but he does not like any speculative assets in the crypto field. He made that very clear. And, pal, sorry, wholeheartedly disagree with you on that one. Thanks, bro. Absolutely, Mike. Doge has use regulated by Elon. Yeah, Doge is regulated by Elon, man. Elon says something about Doge, it goes up. Serge, thank you very much for the super chat. In all aspects of life, pulling out is for amateurs. Blink twice if you agree. It's good, Dave, man. Hope you made some gains over the last few hours. Keep on rolling on. Yes, man, with everything turning and going green, the last few hours have been very nice. So I think a lot of people in here are doing a little bit better than they were 2 hours ago. I'm excited about it. I hope you're excited about it. And I just wish you would have said something a little bit more positive about cryptocurrency. But hey, man, the market took what he said, ran with it, and I'm happy with that. So at least as of right now, there should be less concerns on the table. Me personally, I think he might have been a little bit too nervous or mentioning the Omicron a little bit too much and the devastating effects that it could have. But that's my opinion on that one. Clearly, he thinks that it could be something. And you know what? In all honesty, if the media and the government decides to make it something, even if it's not, it could be something. So we do have to worry about that kind of lingering out there and how much they try to beat it home. So if that ends up being what it ends up being, it'll end up being what it ends up being then, I guess. Because there's nothing we can do about that besides just, I don't know, stay healthy. 1 billion. How much do you own to make you? How much do you own to make a whale? Shoe Guru. 1 billion, Elizabeth says, and you become a whale. Hi, watch from the Philippines. Any good news on Shiba? So, Stephanie, the kind of the best news that we have right now, not directly towards Shiba, but the market in general, is that they are tapering bonds as expected, okay, not in excess quantity, and interest rates have remained the same. So there's a little bit more certainty out in the market right now. That would be good news for Shiba, but all cryptocurrencies. Sundial is still red. Burn, man! Sundial would still be red today. Oh my gosh. Sundial's not on the watch list, but it sucks to be Sundial. They can't sell anything even when the market is going up, and everything's going up. Stocks are more stable and safer than crypto, but crypto pays big. I'm a living testament to that. Yeah, Chris, and I would agree, man. Stocks have been around longer. You get the fundamental value in the companies. And sure, like I will mention all day, cryptocurrencies are inherently riskier than stocks because they're not a company. They're not out there generating revenue. And although they do serve a purpose, some of them do serve purposes, you know, buying it really depends on who else wants to buy it, not the revenue that it can generate. So it's just inherently more risky. I completely agree with that. But I don't think it's useless. I don't think it's, you know, the government needs to come in and regulate it and centralize it for it to have some sort of a value. I mean, in all honesty, the United States dollar is not backed by anything other than the fact that we are the United States of America. That's it. That is it. Cryptocurrency, the same way. If you want to use Shiba as an example, you know, the Shiba Inu coin is not backed by literally anything other than the Shiba Inu army that is willing to buy and willing to hold it. You need to have that demand there if you expect it to maintain and increase in value. Now I have 1 million. Snow cone. Very nice, man. You're not a whale yet, but you're doing very good. Why is Elon's profile picture funky? I do not know. Arizona, what do you think about? I should change my channel name to Clear Bro. Doge Gaming. I don't know, man. What do you, if you still game and you like Doge, keep it Doge Gaming. Perceived value. Exactly, man. If you don't have that perceived value, you're not going to do anything. Your currency, dollar, Shiba, whatever it is, yen, is going to be worthless. I missed a good deal of all what happened, but I'm glad to see a BNB going up from where I bought it so I can swap for some alts. Very nice, Devin. Good deal, man. That is good. And all cryptocurrency should steady off a little bit right now. And I'm excited about the news, okay? I'm excited about the news. It wasn't huge news, but it's what we expected, and it brought certainty to the markets. Was it good? Yeah, Shredder. I think it was a good speech, man. I didn't like some of the stuff that he said, but who cares if I liked it or not, right? And I'm sure you guys liked parts of it and didn't like parts of it too. But at the end of the day, what it did was bring certainty to the markets. And the fact that markets have certainty, people are going to be willing to go out there and possibly take some more risks. So we could, best case scenario, guys, we see that Santa Claus rally that everybody's been waiting for. We get ready, we go out there, we buy them stocks up, and Santa Claus is coming to town, man. Sergeant Maloney, hype, 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 hype. Thank you very much, Sergeant Baloney. Yes, man, it is all hype. It is all good. It is ready to go right now. Let's get this Santa Claus coming to town, man. Let's get this rally rolling. I love it. And sorry when I was yelling at Google earlier, and sorry when I was yelling at the thing here when the music started playing. I had to take care of that really quick, though. This is an oversimplification of what just happened, but why would it be better to know? But why would it be better to know you have AIDS than to just think you have it? Like, I'd be more sad knowing than just thinking. Okay, let me try to put it, because it's, I get the analogy, but AIDS might be a bad example, okay? But let's just use COVID, since it's probably a more relevant example. Maybe thinking you have it, but let's see if I can put this into the. So if you think you got it, and you're not sure, you might still, I don't know, go out to dinner, go to the store, worry about what's going to happen. But if you know you have it, and you know that you're on the mend now, it actually might be better to reverse that and say you think you don't have it anymore. Just because you can't cure it. Yeah, but it might be better to say that you don't have it anymore. Because if you're worried about it, if you're worried about not knowing or knowing that you've recovered from it, I guess that might be the better stance to take there. Because what and here's the part that I disagree with too, and I saw some people in the chat that did disagree with it as well. But the reason they're tapering to fight inflation is because the economy, and this is what I disagree with. They say the economy and the labor market is growing at such a fast pace that inflation is following along, and now they have the tools necessary to fight it because we are almost at full employment. Whether you guys agree or disagree with all the stuff going on out there, I do not think we are anywhere near full employment. And I cannot say that with any more a mixture of disgust and just I think these people are blind. Okay? I don't care where you go. If you go to a grocery store, if you go to a restaurant, if you go anywhere, they are hiring, they are understaffed, everything takes longer than it should, and it is not anywhere near full employment, or a 4.2 right now, but he was saying it's going to be 3.9 by the end of the year. Unemployment rate. It's the fact that people are choosing not to go to work, whether they're receiving some sort of, stimulus or whatever one of the reasons you guys want to look into as to why they're not going back to work. We are not anywhere near full employment right now. And they're using that low unemployment rate because so many people have left the labor market as an excuse that the economy is thriving. And I think that is a terrible indicator of what's actually going on out there, but that's one that they really like to point to because 4.2% unemployment to 3.9% unemployment sounds delicious when I think that's a bold-faced lie. Or they could be dead, yes, and that's why they're not working too. So it's Band-Aids then, Devil's Advocate. Yes, always Band-Aids. Andrew Clipper, I'm back ready for the MOS. Anders, let's get it, man. I am also ready for the MOS. Magic Johnson has the, yes, Magic Johnson beat it, didn't he? Sundial is green. Get out. Is Sundial green now? Did it turn green? Oh my gosh. Amazon going up, Farming going up, AMC going up, GameStop going up, Fun down. Fun is not very fun. CEI going up, Prog is going up, Tesla's going up, the NASDAQ down 2% earlier today, up 2% now. The NASDAQ had a nice wild swing today. Oh my goodness, we gotta get this Santa Claus rally going on. And not speaking of everybody, yes, people in Indiana are just lazy and ignorant for those who don't get slang. Yeah, man, and I don't know what the excuse is, right? I don't know what it is. You could come up like with Powell did, like 10 different excuses as to why people are leaving the labor force. But it is very clear, man, that there are less people working now than there even was in 2019. And, well, clearly less now than in 2019, but I don't see the labor market thriving like a lot of these people say, and these huge wages coming in that would drive demand higher. I mean, how many of you guys got a huge wage increase in the last year that would far outweigh inflation? I would venture to say not the majority. Yes, sometimes I'm just not sure if it's on purpose. Maybe it probably is. Let's go, Cliff President Salvatore Piazza. Let's do it, man. 2024. Let's make it happen. Powell rocks. Well, he did have some good news there. Luca Toni, man. Luca Toni. Luca Toni, man. Thank you very much for the super chat. I felt like, that's belly up. That's the good belly up right there. Devil's Advocate, that's an example of the good belly up. Shiba the moon! Shiba burn. Let's get it, Jeevan. Let's get it. Let's burn Shiba and let's take it to the moon. Absolutely. I am in that with you. Hey, anybody want to participate in that New Year's Eve burn challenge on midnight on New Year's Eve? Midnight Eastern time, as the ball drops in New York City. If you do, just send like one Shiba to this burn wallet. If you don't, go share that Twitter link. And then get some people to get involved with it. That'd be cool. What is Matthew Drupko insinuating? I do not know what Matthew said, man. Your mic keeps getting staticky. Not sure if you are touching something or what. I don't know what he's talking about either. No, I'm not touching anything. It does get staticky at times, but soon. I've got both monitors hooked up. I'm ready to go. Got to install Windows. So very soon, we're switching over to the desktop, and I do have a brand new Yeti Professional X, Yeti X Professional, whatever the name is, mic that we will be using. And it should sound so smooth. When I talk to you guys through that microphone, it's going to be like I'm a voice actor coming again for the Claybro YouTube channel. I didn't get a giant raise, but still on the verge of making the same as McDonald's because of their rage. Just personally think fast food is getting away from a sit down and going back to fast food. Maybe. Fast food was sit down? I didn't know fast food was sit down. I'm burning 10 million and adding more to burn. I love it, man. Burning the Shiba, very good, man. Very good. You don't have to take this all into your own hands, man. You don't have to go out there and burn $340 worth of Shiba. Yeah, 340, right? Because 34 is a million. So you don't have to go out there and burn $340 worth of Shiba Inu coin yourself, man. Get a lot of people involved, and then all of a sudden everybody burns. 10 people burn $34. All of a sudden 10 people or 100 people burn $3. When you get 100 people burning $3, it's much more sustainable. And then you could do these like regular burns, dude. You do it every single month. You still didn't burn as much as you would have, and you burn 100 times as much as you would have. How about this name for my channel? The Stega Gamer. I like it, dude. Do you game dinosaurs? 3 minutes until what? 3 minutes until something. I do not know. 3 minutes until 350, the giveaway, maybe? Is that what we're talking about? Typically, it has more static when Lauren is here. Yes, typically it does, but she's not here right now, and that's why we're not worried about it. Surprise! I'm here. Lauren just made my day. Lauren just made my day. Hello, Lauren. I hope you're having a wonderful day over there, Lauren. How are you today? I hope you're doing great. I donate what you burn from me. I don't have mine in a wallet. Yeah, Shoe Guru. We could do something like that on New Year's, man. Or New Year's Eve or something. That might be cool to do that. Yells in shock. Lauren, what's up, girl? Welcome. Yes, Lauren, how are you? AMC Trapper. Caught him. Oh, boy. We'll have a Shiba after the Fed meeting. You know what, Leander? I don't know exactly what's going to happen to Shiba after the Fed meeting. It was good news in general. He had to get that sniper mark in there about cryptocurrency being a speculative and risky asset unless it's regulated by the government, so I thought that was dumb. But the certainty that we gained from the announcement and the press conference there, I think is going to be enough to kind of calm investors down. Now, if something else comes up, like, I don't know, they continue to fret about the Omicron and things like that, then, you know, we might see a continued pullback. But as far as I'm concerned, the certainty we got here was great news. Who's got 2 thumbs and a fresh bro shirt on the way? A promotion awarded today and a nice blue wrench next to my name? Me! You do. Speaker's blown. Shredder! It probably is, man. It's alright, though. Better than never. I'm good, thank you. I'm tucked up in bed. Lauren, that sounds amazing. Well, I hope after the stream, which we are not going to be streaming too long. Actually, we should do the giveaway right now. We're already at an hour and a half already since we listened to Powell the whole time. So we should probably just do that giveaway now and then let Lauren go enjoy the rest of her night, man. Tucked up in bed. She's got to go to sleep. Did you have a lot of clients today? Did you work hard? I hope you didn't. Clay is turning into a what? What's a Dalek? What's a Dalek? I don't even know what that is. Someone called Mr. Beast and told him to burn Shiba. He likes burning money, I hear. Yes, somebody called Mr. Beast up. I don't know how to get a hold of that guy, but do it. You guys want to do a giveaway? We can do a giveaway. Using AirPod 3 is brand new. Hope they aren't blown. Nah, dude, your stuff's not blown. It's probably my mic. Wow, guys, 89 likes. Just get us to 100 likes. Don't forget to click the like button so we can do this giveaway. 11 of you, go click the like button right now. We'll do a giveaway. Subscribers, any duration, save that. Yeah, guys, 95 likes. There you go. Now it's over 100. Good deal on that. Good deal on that. All right, what do we got here? Yes, because things regulated by the government aren't risky or in danger of manipulation the slightest. Exactly, Pringleton. Exactly. I can taste your sarcasm, but they think that, you know, if it's going to be a good thing, it's got to be regulated by the U.S. government. Any government for that matter, but U.S. government in this situation. Oh, no. Am I here? I hope I'm here. I was starting to lag for a second. Is Danelle here? Danelle's name is Blue, right? Is Danelle here? Where is Danelle? Oh, Danelle's not going to overspam again. And Danelle, thank you very much for the accessories. I went to the post office in between streams, and I do want to just, from the bottom of my heart, guys, you guys are absolutely incredible. Danelle, thank you very much. I'm going to have to make me a cake. One of the first things I'm going to have to make is a cake in that bad boy. It looks amazing. Thank you very much, Danelle. And the lady at the post office was like, oh, you're back again. I was like, yes, I am back again. I've got another package. Let's see it. 12 degrees and centigrade in the UK today. It's kind of cold, right? It was 50 degrees here. Think about that. You're here. Yes, you're here. Bulls fix. Maybe. If you want, can you send me your info and I'll send it to Clay and you won't have to worry about it. Twitter. Yeah, there you go. You can send it to Devil's Advocate and then Devil's Advocate sends it to me. Yes, Danelle, thank you very much. Clay. Mr. Simon. What's up, Mr. Simon? Doge. Again, I say, who is Mr. Beast? Mr. Beast. Elizabeth, how do you not know Mr. Beast? Everybody in the world knows Mr. Beast. You're spoiling him, Danelle. I'm going to make a cake, dude. I'm going to bake a cake. I'm going to bake a big old cake. I'm going to bake a big old cake. Just because. Just because I can, man. Just because I can. Simple as that. 90-mile-an-hour winds in Colorado today. Abstracted gets. I believe it, dude. We had some crazy winds here. He's a YouTuber. Arguably the biggest one. Yeah, I would say the, like, view-wise, viral-wise, monetary-wise, the biggest one. But you got T something, that Indian music channel, and some other guys that have more subscribers. Dude, Beast has like 7 YouTube channels though, all with millions of subscribers. It's ridiculous. Mini Ape Alec. Well, then when we had like the same weather, Orlando weather nice. I think people going back down. It could. Sitting, it could. It absolutely could. We could see a continued pullback if the Omicron and stuff really starts to mess with T-Series. Yeah, Doge Gaming, thank you. If Omicron really messes with people. All right. Guys, we're gonna do it. We've already been here for an hour and a half. Let's do the giveaway, and then I don't know. Just give me some extra time since I didn't have any really lunch break today to eat and get some videos. So, what are we looking at right here? We got to reload the YouTube page, and then we will do the spam. Reload the YouTube page, and then let's do some spamming. Spamming. Keep that Mr. Spamming. Is Mr. Beast bigger than PewDiePie? Abstracticus. So, I don't think he has more subscribers on a single channel, but yeah, he's got more views. He gets more views than PewDiePie. Okay. We're good to go. Guys, spam the chat. Let's go spam the chat right now. We'll do a giveaway, and then we will end for the evening. First, who's Mr. Beast? I only know Clay, bro. Jimmy, now that's what I'm talking about, man. Who's Mr. Beast? I don't know who he is either. I only know Clay, bro, too. Jibin, thank you very much. An outdoor smile. Oh, gosh. I haven't done that one in a long time. M. James would miss that one. Thank you very much for the Super Chat Outdoor Smile. That one makes me dizzy every single time. All right, guys, let's figure out who the winner is here. All right, spam it. Keep that chat spamming. Ready, set. Did I get one? No, didn't get one that one time. Ready, set. Ready, set. Ready, set. Ready, set. Come on. Okay. Ready, set. All right, I don't know who this is. We'll find out. Add moderator. Let's see. Luke Malcolm. Thank you very much for spamming the chat. You got it there. Luke Malcolm, man. Wins on that one. Your name should be blue. The question is, do you want to play the stocking game or the tree game, man? Tree game, you tell me which ornament, which color ornament you want to pick off the tree. Or stocking, I reach in and pick one of the numbers out of the stocking. What does Luke want to play, man? What does Luke want to play? Stocking or tree? Congratulations, Luke. Yes, congratulations. Fixed again, you wish. Congratulations, Luke. Let's get it, man. Stocking, we got some numbers in there. We got the tree if you want to play the tree. We got to see. Tree. Luke wants to play the tree game. All right, Luke's playing the tree game. Question is, Luke, what color do you want, man? We've got gold, silver, green. We've got a red and some blue on there. Question is, which ornament would you like? I don't see him yet. Which color would you like? Let me know which color you would like. Blue! Blue! He says blue. Let's do a blue. I wasn't on there, man. Okay. Number 19. Might be difficult to see. Hold on. That's a 9. That's a 1. Not P1. It's 19, guys. I promise. 19. 19. So let's see what number 19 is. We got to go over here. And we got to see what number 19 is. Stock market is rigged as Clay's giveaway. No, it's not rigged, man. 19. Keychain. Luke, you got a keychain, man. Let's see if we can get this up here. 19. Keychain. So I'll do keychain and a sticker pack. Luke, you do not have a green name, so you're getting a keychain and a sticker pack, not an automatic upgrade to a shirt. So good deal on that one, keychain and sticker pack. Do you follow me on Twitter? If you do not follow, if I don't follow you on Twitter, follow me right now. And Claybro883, if anybody out there follows me right there, right now, I will follow you back. So let's do keychain and a sticker pack. So let's see here. If you guys want to go follow me right now, I will follow everybody back. I'm following everybody back that followed me earlier. So if you want to go out there and follow me, we can do that right now. Luke, do you have Twitter? If not, you got to email me. Let me know if you have Twitter, actually. Number 19 is mouse into baked beans. No, dude, I'm not going to give you a mouse and baked beans. That sounds really dangerous. Jose! Man, what's going on, Jose? You having a good day, Jose? I hope you are. He said green. No. He said blue. He said blue. Did he say green, honestly? He said blue, man. Luke, blue right there. He said blue. Yeah. He said blue. You guys are messing with me now. It made me all worried. Just followed you? Alright. Just followed me. Let's see here. Let's follow him back. Boom! Gotcha, man. And Danny, I got you too. Alright, good deal. Luke, got both you guys. Followed both you. Okay, now, it's 4 o'clock. So we're going to end the stream since we were here an hour early. We're going to end an hour early. No, I said blue. Alright, good deal. You guys had me worried for a second there. I don't know why you guys got a lot of me like that. So we're going to end an hour early since we started an hour early. Hopefully enough time to get some videos out this tonight, and it should be. Clay, thoughts on Ape Island? I might vacation to Ape Island, but I don't know if I would live on Ape Island, Mr. Simon. That's my thoughts on Ape Island. I'd probably vacation there, but I don't think I would live there. Clay, thanks, man. Snowcone, absolutely. Smell you later, bro. Smell you later, David. Have a good day. Much appreciated. Absolutely, Snowcone. Thanks, Clay, bro. Luke, definitely, man. Message me on Twitter. I follow you back, so you can message me now. Message me where I can send the stickers and the keychain, too. Jamie, thank you. Do one more. Shredda, I'll do one more tomorrow. What did AMC end at? Mini Ape Alec, excellent question. AMC ended at $24.65. Shiba sitting at $34.23. Prague, $2.60. And GameStop sitting at $149.22. So that's what you got on the board right there. And, I don't know, pretty decent move at the end of the day, rebounding to close positive on the day. That's always good news. Shoe Guru, you take it easy as well. AMC Trapper says, peace out to all the diamond-handed apes. Peace out to all you guys, a billion-dollar fund trying to buy up all the Shiba. Yikes. They can't buy all the Shiba with a billion-dollar fund, though. They need, like, $20 billion. Catch you in the AM, bro, fam. Green Day. Let's get it, man. See you tomorrow during the MOAS. Am Cool Bacontron. See you tomorrow during the MOAS. All right, guys. All of you have a wonderful day. And you know what time it is. So if you want to say it with me, say it with me. Until the next time, hope that each and every one of you have an awesome day.